Okay. Hi. I'm Taylor, and I've created this group for all of you wonderful women to ask each other for recommendations and advice. And once a week, we started doing spotlight members of the week, and super excited for our member this week. I'm gonna bring her on right now. See how quickly it works here. Yay! Oh, that was so
Yay!
quick. Oh, I
It
love your
works.
hair. It worked quickly. Hi.
Hi, Kitty.
So you're Sylvie, obviously, and you're one of my favorite therapists ever.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
so much,
following your
Taylor.
Instagram, social media, all the good tips and quotes and everything that you have in all of your lives. I'm always so interested in what you have to say and share.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, of course. So, and you've also created a lot of courses, and you and your fiance now have also created couples courses and communication courses and all the good things to help us learn different skills and tools to create really amazing relationships. So, there's been a lot of questions and posts lately in the group around dating and around relationships and a lot of how do I know, if it's the right
Mm.
person or like I'm not really feeling it. Is it okay to not, is it okay to not pursue this relationship? Um, and so I thought it would be really awesome to bring you on. And if any members join live, then they can ask their questions live as well. Otherwise, we'll just get to know you. And you're
Sure.
also going to gift two women the practical communication program.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
So you can tell us a little bit about that too, and then we'll get some comments in live or for the replay of why the women want it, and then they'll get it. So you can tell us first who are you?
Who am I? Well,
Who
thank you
are
for
you?
that lovely introduction, Taylor. Me and Taylor have known each other for a couple of years now. We met in LA a couple of years ago, and we've always, kind of touched base, but haven't really got to connect too deeply. So I was so glad you invited me on. And I'm Sylvie Kukassian, for those of you that don't know me, which is probably 99% of you guys in this group, but I did see some familiar faces. I work as a marriage and family therapist. I do a lot of relationship coaching, and I really love helping people understand how to connect better in intimate relationships, how to know what their needs are while they're dating, so they can really just be upfront about those things from the get-go, but also how to help them do those things in a way that doesn't push the other person away, right? So it's how to be myself and be honest and truthful in my loving self, but also how to be really sensitive and aware of the person I'm dating or in a relationship with, and how to really incorporate both of those two things.
Beautiful. So why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Because it was so hard for me, Taylor. I think everyone that does what they do has gone through their own rock bottom experience, right? And for me, I mean, dating was just a nightmare. I would go on dates and dates and dates. I think I was it 3 years ago. I went on like probably over 100 dates, and I kept finding flaws in every person. I was like, okay, there's something here. There's something to this. I'm the common denominator, and there's something deeper for me to really reflect on. And so when I started to really get into that space of figuring out what was behind that for me and figuring out how to navigate that, I wanted to help other people, and I wanted to, give people those same tools that I wouldn't be in a relationship if I didn't have.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. What transformations have you seen in your clients? Like, what are some of your favorite stories?
Oh man, transformation stories in my clients.
Or in your own life from learning these
Sure,
things?
sure. I would say the biggest thing is how so much of what we think we know on the surface is actually not at all what's happening. And I think when I
Mm.
work with a client and they think that this thing is happening. For example, I work with a lot of clients I work within the attachment styles framework. Some of you watching probably know. I know, Taylor, you know.
I
So
know.
it's a life changer, you guys. It's a game changer.
That book you recommended for me changed my
Yeah,
attachment.
yeah.
Attached? Yeah.
Attached. It's a
changed
fantastic
me.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I work with people that get to know what their attachment styles are, and I can see them have that awareness, okay, you know what? I find flaws in other people as a way of avoiding feeling what's happening for me. Or I'm so anxious that I put other people on a pedestal and I don't really find my own, I'm not in touch with my own worthiness, or all these things. And so when I work with a client, I can't think of one in particular, but I tend to attract people that are pretty avoidant in their attachment style. That's what, probably because that's what mine is, of course. And helping them see that, wow, it's so healing for them to finally get in touch with some of their own woundings and to be able to not make it about the other person anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only does that create peace and safety inside of themselves, but then they're finally open to creating that intimacy that they so want, but that they've been so resistant to. And that's, of course, been my own journey. So it's been really nice to
Exactly.
have,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you love about what you do?
What do I love? Well, what you just said, the transformation, the seeing, it's a slow process, it takes a long time to really get deep into this work. But I think when I see people that are so committed and so willing to face the more challenging parts of themselves, I mean, there's nothing more rewarding for me than that. And I actually love working with the shadow side, with the grieving side. I don't know why, but I really enjoy helping people make peace with that part of themselves that really gets them stuck, and for all of us, even when we want to experience the joyful feelings, if we don't give ourselves permission to really work through the more challenging ones, we won't feel the joyful feelings. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like almost like I get to walk people through them finding a way to clear their own path. And that's so healing for me.
So grieving the loss of a relationship, or grieving, like, what kind of grief?
I work a lot with childhood woundings. So
Mm.
let me explain a little bit of what attachment stuff is all about. I think it might be
Yeah,
helpful
please
because I
do.
know what it is and I know you know what it is. And what the hell are you about? So attachment styles basically means that the way we bond to our mother or our primary caregiver when we're kids becomes the framework in which we experience intimate relationship. So if we had a mother that was very tuned in, very present, very available for us emotionally, we become secure in our adult relationships, meaning it's just easier for us to be in relationships. It's easy to ask for our needs. It's easy to ask for what we want, to be present for our partner. If we had a parent that was more unavailable, like sometimes she was there, sometimes she was not there, it was always inconsistent, we become more anxious in our attachment style.
Mm.
And that means that in an adult relationship, I'm going to be super sensitive to outside threats very, very, very often. I need a lot of reassurance because I'm not sure if you're going to be there or not. Sometimes in my mind, I think you are. But so recognizing that I'm going to be somebody that has more needs in a relationship is what comes up for people that are anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody that's more avoidant, which is what we talked about a little bit, is somebody that had a little bit more of an invasive parent. So a parent that maybe was trying to stare too deeply in a baby's eyes, or, trying to make that child into a performer of the family, or maybe just didn't give them any attention at all. So that child had to regulate themselves. And as an adult now, they don't know how to let anybody in because they're not used to being engaged. They're not used to having somebody be present for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was your question? So I can tie this all back together, Taylor.
It was about grief.
About
And so
grief.
you were talking about childhood grief, and then you went into attachment styles, just so that people can
Got
understand
it.
attachment styles.
Okay. So knowing those frameworks, it requires us to grieve some of the things that we didn't get as children, right? So I'm going to be in a relationship with you, Taylor. Let's say me and you were in a relationship, and I'm
Twin
very
work, because we're
avoidant.
both avoidant.
I know, right? I'd be on one side of the room and you'd be the other side of the room.
Yeah.
So if we were in a relationship together and I think that things you're doing are triggering me, if I don't do the work to really reflect on, whoa, what is this really triggering? What memories are actually coming up for me? I'm going to make you the enemy. I'm going to turn you into the person that's doing this to me.
Mm.
rather than, okay, I have to go back. I have to reflect on the way that I was raised, the way that I was tended to, and grieve that. Because the only way I can start to heal some of those things is, and we can't know this stuff on an intellectual level. You know, we try to, but we have to just dive into the feeling. And then sometimes the information is available to us after we give ourselves permission to grieve and feel. Is that
Right.
helpful?
Totally helpful. Yeah. I mean, when I learned about the attachment styles and everything that you've shared and then reading that book, I really noticed. I mean, I was in a relationship or ending a relationship while reading that, and it really helped me to let go of it too, because I realized just how much we had triggered each other's attachment styles in the wrong way, you know,
Yeah.
and or like whatever the wrong way, but in an unhealthy way where we were both constantly like I was running and he was going, you know, and so it was really one of the things too about the attachment styles that helped me was to learn that when we're breaking up with somebody or our attachment figure is leaving or we think they're leaving, how our whole body just goes into this like mode, you know, and it's not really, it doesn't really mean that we miss them or that we want them or that we are good together. It's just our attachment system like is triggered and we're trying to survive. We're just trying to get that safety back. And so that was really helpful for me to be like, it's just my attachment system just being triggered. It's not the person. It's not about the person.
Yeah. It takes a long time, you know. I get questions from people all the time they're like, it's been a year, I'm not over this person. It's been, you know, it's been so long. Why am I not over them? And it's exactly what you just said. It's our bodies are literally bonded to each other on such a deep level. It takes a long time.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
It can take
Yeah.
a long time. So what are some of the most common or the most helpful tips that you can give to the women who are single, like single women in the group, you know, that are dating, that kind of have this idea of LA, it's hard to meet, you know, a good guy, and when they do, they're not interested, and what are some tips for the single ladies and then for the women in relationships of how to, I mean, I know the practical communication program will probably really help with some of those things, but just some simple, easy tips that everyone can start doing today to either attract and feel good in a new relationship or to deepen and connect more with their current partner.
Got it. Okay. So for single people, there's so many different things I could suggest, but I'm going to try to keep it simple because I know it can feel so overwhelming. First of all, I get it. It's so hard. Dating is so, you know, that it already brings up its own anxiety in itself, just being in that unknown and not knowing what it's going to turn into. And so I would say, I mean, you touched on a point already, just, you know, that hopelessness that we feel of like, how am I going to meet someone in this abundant sea of people, right? And there's some little things that we can do to help us in our favor. And some things that we can do is try not to allow that to affect how you're going to show up on a date. So what I mean by that is we're still going to have our guards up, right? We're not going to just trust somebody right away. But one of the things I find people are on either the side of being too vulnerable and too truthful and too honest from the beginning, or people that are not honest at all, don't show themselves, don't give anything. And so we have two people playing at the opposite side of the spectrum, and neither of those are good dating skills, right? So what I mean by that is it's important for us to be vulnerable on date, even early on, but we have to do it in a way that's balanced and is noticing how the other person is showing up. So one of the tools I give my single clients is share one piece of vulnerability, one small piece that can allow you to bond with this person, and then just wait and see how they respond. Simple. Don't continue to keep sharing and sharing and sharing as a way of trying to get them to open up. That's not going to work, because we have to honor our own vulnerability too, right? And, you know, if somebody, you know, there's a likelihood somebody's going to be shy on a date, they're going to be nervous, so they're not going to necessarily even be thinking of knowing to be that vulnerable. So you can share something, and you can always make requests if they're not meeting you. You can be like, I'd love to know something. I'd love to know something about you. I share something vulnerable. I'd love to know. And that way we're being proactive, but we're doing it in a way that, because I find that if we're too vulnerable too quickly, we can dysregulate ourselves and then just feel uncomfortable around this person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing, is just, being vulnerable with one piece and seeing how the other person responds. And this is going to be another big one. This is going to be a big one, especially for, the attachment work, is it's okay if you don't have sparks right away. Even on the first, second, maybe third date, if you grew up in a childhood that was not on the healthier side, you're going to be attracted to people that are going to feel familiar to you. So you're going to go on a date with someone and then you feel those fireworks come up. That might not necessarily be a good sign for you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So being open to people that you're not disgusted by, but people that you feel neutral by. Oh, okay. And do I respect this person? Do I admire this person? And just objectively seeing if there's qualities about the person that you would like as a friend. And being open to, which can be so counterintuitive, Taylor, because we want those things to be present right away. But if you grew up in a childhood that was very loving, was very present and attuned to you, then you having those sparks works in your favor. But most of us did not experience that. Mm-hmm. So that's for single people. Is that
yeah,
touch
those
some
are
stuff?
good tips. Yep.
Okay. And for people in a relationship, so what are some things that people in a relationship can do to help them? Just in general?
Yeah, to deepen their connection, or maybe they're feeling a little lull in the relationship, or they're not feeling as sparky anymore, or something's going on. Like, what's a good way to refresh the relationship?
That's a good way to refresh. One thing that can be really helpful is learning about what your defenses are when you're in a fight. So for example, when you're in an argument with someone, it's so easy to make it about the other person. It's what we do. We want to blame, we want to, point the finger. But really learning about what you do that pushes your partner away. This takes a lot of, that radical self-responsibility, and being able to reflect on some of those things. And I talk about this in the program. Do I criticize? Do I get defensive? Do I shut down? And really coming back to our partner when we make the repair after a fight. That's something that I notice so many couples skip. So many couples, they have a fight, they somehow regulate themselves, they move on, but they don't actually go back and say, you know what, honey, I was criticizing you so much during that fight, or I totally shut you out, or, I realized that when I'm upset, I don't let you in at all. And I have you at an arm's distance. And so going back to your partner after you have a breakdown and communicating some of the things and taking responsibility, not only does it make you safer to your partner, it brings back some of those sparks and that connection that you just mentioned. It helps, because if we're not being vulnerable, we're not going to feel connected. Even if our partner is being vulnerable, we're not going to feel that. So there's a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so then last thing, just tell us a little bit about the program. What's in it? What's good for it? Who would want it?
Sure. So basically the program is a practical communication program that I put together. And it's basically about exactly what I just talked about. Helps you identify what your core defense is. Mine is criticism. So I didn't know how critical I was for so long, but when I finally got the golden lights, it's like, oh my God, no wonder this person is, uncomfortable around me, or their defenses are always up, or they're shutting down because they can't tolerate that. Mm-hmm. So the program helps you really quickly identify what your natural go-to defense is when you're threatened, and it helps you with making those kinds of repairs. And I'm talking about people even that are on the early parts of dating, maybe like 6 or 7 dates in, you start to notice some of, your own defenses coming up, and gives you practical language with how to come back and make those repairs, how to be safer, how to be less threatening, and how to really be vulnerable. But it's very practical, and that's the piece that's really important any of the work that I do, I like to give a lot of examples and scripts, so you'll be able to know what kind of language that you can use in your own words with how to make those repairs, and very quickly.
Awesome. That's so
Yay.
cool. Thank you. So you're going to
Absolutely.
gift to women with the
Yes.
Practical Communication Program. So we'll have in the comments, the ladies tell us why they want it, what they'll, how it's going to help them, why they deserve it. I don't like saying deserve,
Sure.
but
Yes.
why they
Yes.
want it. And then I'll post your Instagram, and people can
Cool.
find you on Facebook, and obviously they can book with you. They can book you're a licensed therapist. You can help people through lots of things, right? So,
Yes, that's my love is to help people be better daters and better relationshipers.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, my dear.
Okay.
And we'll check the comments later and just pick the ones that, we feel like really, really need the support.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great. Okay.
Wonderful.
Talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
Taylor. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.